This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to the support tour of the 2023 fall and 2024 winter updates for Atom software. This video is not to replace the videos that you can always find in your help menu with the updates under the link for Mark's tour of the full outline of the fall and winter. You can watch these at any time. After today, once this is recorded and uploaded, you'll have another link down here with our support tour. This is to work in conjunction with his videos to kind of give you a bit more of the support perspective in terms of things that might help you either get used to the new layout if you haven't seen it before, or to show anybody that might need a few tips and tricks on what they're looking at. And then of course, sort of how it might be easier to transition from the older version previously to this newer version. So to get started, just to let you know, I will cover the fall information first and the things that we were talking about, as well as then jump into the winter. There are a few things that we do like to add in addition to some of the things that Mark showed you, just in terms of this is where it is in admin, or if you're looking for something that he had mentioned, here it is. Okay. So the first thing is we want to give you an overview of what you're looking at. If you have been with us for a while, obviously this does look very different from the older version. And this video is to kind of help you with that even though it looks different, all of the functionality is still there. And in our opinion, is a little bit of a better layout because it is uniform, as well as some of the information is a bit more in your face, maybe, than what it used to be. So the first thing is you'll notice that your workflow has not gone away. That is still over here on your left-hand side. And there is a new addition in the winter that I'll talk about with these event status categories, which you could add. These can replace, if you'd like to, but don't have to, the separators that are available in your event status office event workflows. The other thing that you'll notice, of course, is going across the top. This is the older section that used to be a few links down in the middle of your screen, an Atom, that were associated with you particularly being logged in to the software. That these are my assigned tasks, my messages, inter-office messages, my appointments, my work schedule. You'll also notice that on the right-hand side where the communications used to be, these are also right still here. So we call these cards, and you can tell that they change their color once you're on them. And that's to just let you know that you can click on them and that they will take you to what you're looking to see, obviously, with the portals here. And the more you have, if you have texting, if you have SendGrid, if you have VoIP, or if you have faxing, which isn't on this demo session that we have, those are all going to appear here. If you don't have them and you would like to, you can always find information about them in the help menu, or you can, of course, always contact Atom support. A couple of things to talk about with these in this new layout is that these numbers can sometimes confuse you. So we're here to explain. The 4, of course, is going to be the 4 portal messages that have not been addressed. That's why they're considered quote unquote new. The ones in parentheses are going to be your total portal messages in there right now. So you can see that 1, 2, 3, and 4 of these have not been addressed, meaning they either have not been completed or they haven't been assigned to who is actually working on those files right this second. Okay. This other one is new, and I do like it a great deal, and you might wonder why, but this is your in and out count for today. And you can see that it is early, at least while I'm recording this, so nothing has come into this demo. And the reason why I do like this is, of course, it goes hand in hand with some of the data management, which I'll get to right after this, is that let's say I had forgotten who I'd worked on, or something had come in, you're like, I know I saw this, I just didn't have time to assign it to myself. Maybe someone else had completed it. If you go into the today, it'll show you total, open, inbound, outbound, what were automatic notifications. So it's giving you more details about what your portal is doing each day, which of course you can always find if I scroll down in your daily log. So this is information and why we added it. We had to go to the daily log to kind of find some of this information each day. So it was great to have it right here with a quick click. So technically, these are actually 3 separate clicks and links. And again, that goes across for all of the different portals that you may have available to you. The other nice thing, and it was there in the older update, but now that these are a little bit more maybe visible with the cards and bigger, if it's not your job to have to worry about the portals or you're just not doing it today, you do have the ability to hide those sections so you can kind of clean up your homepage and be able to focus on what you'd like to focus on. So there's this section. And then, of course, there's this section. So this is not new, but because it is a little bit newer with a couple of years down the line, some of you just may not have ever turned it on. So one of the things we found in the open sessions that we had is people didn't know that it was there. This is a little bit more of the managerial side. If you're looking at in terms of the entire office, which if you had those permissions were always available in your assigned tasks. It's just that you had to dig through them to get there. So when you go there, you can filter, of course, by anybody if you have those permissions. Here is if you have those permissions, you can, of course, look at these on a larger scale. And again, see the numbers as you might be looking at it throughout the day. One of the other things that you'll notice throughout the software is we've tried to get rid of those long scrolls. So you're going to notice, for those of you that have used it previously, your last 10 and your favorite files are not on the bottom here anymore. And that's because had we added them for those that had this section on, it was creating that scroll. And again, one of the things we wanted to do is that so you could see everything that you really wanted to see in one page, so long as it was about the files. Those are right up here in your search. So the nice thing about having them here, yes, it is one more click, but you have more room. So not only can I see the files, I can also see the year, so not just the name. I can see what business type, and I can see the last status that it might be a part of. Same thing, favorites, just a little click, and they're right over here. I'll show you where to favorite those files. So, and again, the reasoning behind that is, let's say this is a pretty difficult return. Maybe he's doing 2 years at once. He has a bunch of businesses. I can favorite it so I can get to it quickly, regardless of who I may have been working on before, right? So he's always going to be in my favorite files. Another quick thing about this page and Atom as a whole with the change is that some of the functionality you might be looking at and say, oh, where was it? You know, we used to search by emails all the time, or business types, or invoice numbers. The things that are there in Atom are still there. They're just cleaned up. And again, functionality, go to that right-hand side, and you may find that these open drawer menus are going to come out. And so here are the other options that you were used to seeing at all times, but maybe they just weren't used as often. So things like that, you're going to find in right corner functionality menus. The other thing with this, so I'll come back to the home page. If you wanted to turn those on, or maybe you've never had the last 10 or favorites on, you're going to find that in your profile page. So now with your name over here, same thing, just like it used to be when you click your name, you're going to get into your client file. You're going to find that this mimics, again, the client, your user file, sorry. Your client file and user file are set up in the same way. And that is with, they always used to have smaller broken up sections, and you may not have noticed it, again, because it was one long scroll, but they always had the blue or gray header banners that broke up each section. So now what's going on is that these sections are just on the left. So as you click through them, you can get to any of the things that you normally were used to seeing in that, again, one long scroll. So in the general settings for the two things that I were talking about, you're going to come down to your display settings. And the first thing on that homepage, display office tasks on homepage. Again, let's get back to that home on a different tab. It's this section right here. The other one for enable last visited to display on the search page, which also includes your favorites in your search. right here. So you're turning them on with these two functions. Okay, back to your home page. The other thing that we do want to talk about is, of course, this section is a little bit smaller, and instead of sort of running across the right-hand side, they're now on the left-hand side. This does a couple of things. The first one is that your logo is smaller. And so maybe it isn't as visible as you'd like it to be. And of course, now there's a blue background instead of the white. You can change and upload your logo at any time. With this newest update in the fall, if you go to your admin, and this section is a little bit different too. It's broken up into smaller sections. And of course, last time you may have noticed there were about 9 sections that you could go to. Now there's only 4. And you can see the extra menus kind of pop out when you're there. If you go to core configuration, you can see you now have an upload system logo and icon. So you can change this logo at any point whenever you'd like to. If you find that you are not as versed with something like Paint or Photoshop or whatever application that you have, we are certainly happy to help you. You can send us your logo, we'll work through that with you, upload it, and help you out so long as we have a login. For those of you that are interested, this 16 by 16 with the PNG icon. This is that tiny little icon that you might see on your internet browser tabs. It is just really nice if you use a lot of tabs like you can see I do, and maybe you have something else up here. You can see that that tiny little favicon changes depending on what you're looking at. This one, of course, is your logo. The reason why we only put a height max on here is because this is actually a little bit more dynamic. You can make them a little longer. You could, of course, make it slightly higher, so you can actually play with this a little bit. I usually start around 50, actually, 50 height, and I start around 200 length, depending on the size of your logo. The other thing we found, of course, if you have a very square logo, is sometimes just a tiny little redesign to make it a little longer, and then playing with height of the font might help. Again, we can help if it's something that you're interested in. If you're happy with the way it looks, it's perfect. Okay. When I mentioned it before, so I'm going to go back to the home screen, you can see that in this new version, you actually have intuitive menus that have additional sections. So with this, one of the things that you might find is punch clock. So old school punch clock, if you used to use it, you could just click on the punch clock or just click on the calendars and it would default to the punch clock and then default to today's appointments. Because you have these extra menus here, we can't do that anymore, and that is for a very good reason. So with the new layout, if you have Atom on, let's say, a smaller screen like a phone, you can see that this is intuitively moved through the system. It is changed in terms of your layout. And if we tried to just click calendars and just went to appointments, you'd never be able to get to the other ones without adding a lot of extra, again, functionality links, which we've tried to get away from. So you do have those extra ones that'll pop out, as well as if you ever notice that your icons at the top have gone away and they're in the little pancake menu on the right, it is normally because you may want to work with the size of the screen. But you can see that dynamically you can use Atom on any type of screen that you might be, whether that be a smaller tablet, a smaller laptop, a phone, or a desktop. Now, the functionality of Atom wasn't designed around it, the changes to be mobile. But of course, Atom is a cloud-based software. It should be usable on any screen size that you're working on. And often, what I love about it now is on my phone, I don't have to flip to the desktop version, and I don't have to do the pinch and widen to be able to at least look at something that I might need for the next day or fire off a quick message for someone who's having an issue in one of our portals. Okay, so with that, one of the other things that you might notice is, let's get to here, is that your right click option. So, and you can see I've got this view up here, is that your right click option, if you do open in a new tab, for those that are set, right, that they're only one, it's always going to open in that new tab right away. If you do it to something like just admin, which has those extra menus, it will essentially duplicate your page, right? this is where I was, but now it gives you where you are. So if you were used to doing that hover, right click, open in a new tab, it is still available. You just may either quickly duplicate your page or notice that you have to come down, come over, sort of be on the one that you want to see for that particularly to open the way you want it to. Let's do that in another one so it's not exactly the same one. Okay, here we go. So this one is adjustment types, and then this one was account types. Okay. The other thing with that, in terms of mobile screen, smaller screen, desktop, we even have people that have incredibly large screens, is that old school Atom. So again, this is sort of that tip and trick for support. I used to always view my old Atom at about 110 or 120. And you can see that that made that incredibly large. This is not comfortable for me to view. And personally, I know it's a little harder at the top, and I'm going to talk about that top in a second. I know personally, I usually prefer to work daily at about 80. Now, if I'm maybe typing a message, and you can also see your tasks and your messages are still here, they're just in the top right corner. If I'm typing a message, right, and composing something, I might make this bigger, just so it's a little easier on my eyes as I'm typing and I'm trying to read what I put down. If you're not familiar with how to do that quickly, what I'm doing right now is it's control on your keyboard, and I'm using my mouse wheel to go up and down. The same thing works true if you're on a laptop that has just a little pad. It's control and plus, oops, let me click it, control and plus, control and minus. So you can move through that in a quicker sense. Okay. So you can tell that it is probably hard to see which Zoom I'm on. It is a tiny little 80% over there in the corner, but I have this template, so theme going on in Firefox. So I work out of Firefox every day. We also have VoIP. We have Atom's VoIP. And the way that I use Atom, so not everybody needs to do this. You know, most people are going to punch in, they're going to open their phone, they're fine all day. The way that I use Atom, I always have multiple tabs going. I have multiple screens. I also have things sometimes that cover. So if a phone call's coming in, I might be scrambling to try to get to where it is that I'm looking for so I can see who's calling and answer. One of the things that I like to do is I use my phone in Chrome. And so I have downloaded, these are free if you've not done them before. So these are actually themes, and you can get, and you can kind of see mine is just that top one here on Firefox. And then if I go back to this Chrome, I believe this one is just a music theme. And it's done more so because I can tell immediately by the color of my tabs or where I'm looking over on the right-hand side. I'm in Chrome. I'm going to close out what I need and come back to where I am. If these are always just white or whatever your default color is, I just found it was easier for me to kind of get lost when I was trying to move very quickly from page to page to get back where I wanted. So you don't have to do it. It's free. It should be free on your Chrome or your Firefox. We also use Edge, but I don't use it that often, so I haven't played with any of these tabs with any kind of extension running in the background for a theme. And you can see that if everything was this, you know, the white, it's harder to kind of discern which one you're looking at. That is another tip too. Sometimes Chrome, Firefox, or Edge might do an update and it may start to interfere until it can catch up with maybe how you're viewing an icon or how something looks. We always suggest, if you can and you find it safe, to download all three or at least two. That way, I know a lot of people will do both Edge, the Microsoft Edge, because it comes with your Windows, and Chrome, or Firefox and Edge, or whatever your preference, whatever that might be. It is nice to at least have one so you can quickly kind of move over to it and figure out if something's going on with an update, or just double check. Sometimes those settings change. Okay, so I'm going to go move that over here. We'll come back to that in a minute. So that's a little bit more sort of what you're seeing on your homepage. There's one missing piece for managers if you ever used to use it and you might find it's gone. There was one last link that was on the bottom section of that right-hand communication side, and those were your data management tables. They're just right up here in the top right corner. So they're still there, they're just up there. Same thing for those of you that had the Drake or Crosslink link. you're always going to find them up here from your main page. Okay, so let's get into one of my favorite files. So I'm looking at a favorite, and I'm going to look at a deal here. So with this client, this is probably the biggest sea change in terms of what we'd like to talk to you about today, so you can get used to Atom. Of course, we were all used to the main file where you just scrolled continuously, and of course, everything was on the same page. It made it nice because, frankly, if you'd been using it and it was the same Atom for about 20 years, you had that mouse wheel muscle memory down. You knew exactly where you were looking, you knew physically where you were trying to go visually, and everything was there. Now you have this funky page with a bunch of cards on it and numbers that you might not know what's going on, and you've got this side section. So the first thing we're going to tell you is Atom comes like this, right? With your menu that's dynamic. It can open and close as you see fit. So you have more space. You're utilizing the screen with the data that you're trying to look at. I will tell you this, it's much easier to get used to Atom. And frankly, there's just a lot more information here, particularly when you're doing taxes, if you anchor this sidebar. We couldn't have it load anchored because this is actually a cookie that's being saved for your personal preference if you'd like it open or not. So just come up here to the show, it's at the top, show, hide sidebar, and keep it open. All right, so what are we looking at here? One of the things we found, now obviously we train you in this, we use it on a daily basis a little differently than you do. So it's easier for us to remember the order of operations that you used to see, because at the top of the page was always the client information. And now you have this summary. We're going to come back to this summary, but I am going to show you that that information, so you can see here, I'm clicking on the contact information, it is still there. So the sections that used to have those top blue banners have just been broken up into their own sections. And what it does is it allows you a little bit, again, more space in the page of what you're looking at. So you don't have that big blue frame as it goes along, as well as um, it just breaks it up. So if you didn't need to see this and you knew exactly this client, I'm just trying to get to the events, I can have more information here for me. Speeds up the page a little bit as well, since not everything has to load at once. When you click on it, is the information that you're looking at. So the contact information was always the top part, and then right underneath that were always your permanent notes. And you can see I can click on either of those pages and they're over here. When you're in the contact summary, again, a little bit more in your face, I can see the balance across the years. I can look, it's matching that information over here. I have my events, review now waiting. I can see what that event is. Same thing, I can see it here in the card. If there were open notes to talk about maybe something I should be reading before I do that tax return, I can also see that same thing over here. There's that red dot telling me. I can also see account documents, and that one is for e-signature and it hasn't been signed. Those mimic the intuitive cards that you see here as well. The nice thing about this, and one of the things that I kind of complained about just because I was so, again, used to muscle memory, I didn't want to have to move my wrist all the time. You don't really have to continually jerk your mouse over here to get to it. These cards will take you to where it is you're looking to go based on that data. So I click the account documents and here they are. I'm also going to do one more thing. So the client uploads, right? I'm going to make that not done. So our client uploads come through as yellow, meaning obviously if they're new, they haven't been addressed, they're going to come through as not done. And what that allows me to do when I'm looking at that summary, there's one open, right? So out of the two account documents, and it is nice to have the count, it is something that some of the offices have asked us over the years. I need to know if there's a bunch of things in there. You know, if it's zero, of course I haven't started anything. They're all in the perm docs. But if they're here, I need to know kind of what has been added, what hasn't. I can see that one has not been addressed. Click it, there it is, right? The same thing would hold true. I'm gonna move it. So here's another thing again, right? Things that you were used to seeing in Atom, we had things at the top, sometimes at the bottom. Maybe there was an open area in the bottom where you created a new one and others had add, right? So for any functionality that you were used to seeing. It is still there. They're just moved in a uniform manner so that every page is the same. You don't have to remember, oh yeah, these were the ones at the top. This one had it on the bottom. This one had it on the bottom, right? It made it a nightmare for you guys to have to train anybody that was new because again, Adam is 20 years of programming stacked on top of each other. So sometimes each page was just very different than the other page. So now they're the same, right? Add, your side drawer menu is going to come out. Anything that you were used to doing, like delete, the zip download, moving the uploads, overriding any of those fields, faxing, if you have the fax functionality, which again stems from the documents, are going to be in your actions menu in your top right corner. Let's move this document. So let's just pop it over to Perm Docs. You can see it went away. All of a sudden, I have that red dot on Permanent Docs. And that's because this is what it would look like if something new came into your office. And you can see, of course, these cards. Now you have a permanent document, not just an account document card. And you can see that that one new open is there. So things are going to stand out a bit more. They're there in your face. It's giving you more data without having to scroll all the way down. And of course, let's say here you have that open note that I should have read, read me, right? So maybe this was something like your client had taken out a 401k or 403b withdrawal, and they'd called you in August for an estimate. And now you're doing their tax return and they of course maybe forgot that they or didn't know that they were supposed to be getting a document, and so you started that return because unless you had scrolled all the way down, it was kind of easy to miss sometimes. If you're in here and you're moving through your events, right, it's going to be easy to miss that there was a task note if you didn't scroll all the way. And now it's okay. It's right here, right? I'm going to see that red. It's something I should probably take a look at before I start working on this return. And I could have seen that in one go when I'm looking at this summary. And the other things that are meant to pop out at you do. So here's that special condition, right? So when we have a special condition, it meant same thing, read this while you're in this return or if you're looking at this client. So the special condition is still there and you see it immediately on your homepage. If I take this out and save this and we go back to the summary, right? It's not there. Again, not kind of kicking out at me, hey, take a look at this before. Your permanent notes, still there. You can read it from your summary. And again, I don't have to move over here. I can click on this and it's going to open exactly where I want to see in the permanent notes section. Same holds true for any of these cards. Here's some account information that you might want to know before you start doing anything, that it is a 1040, that it is a 4-star, that normally I'm the person who does this return. If there was an account number, it would be there. Requested preparers or default communication, who all that is going to, there. If you have file settings, docs uploaded through the client portal, again, these are the category 1 and 2. Special condition. Here's your archive blocked. And again, if I do blocked, so for those of you that use this, you've got that visual brown. If you had another language where that was always that purple highlight, it is still purple. And there it is. You can see it throughout the file wherever you might be. You don't have to be on this page to see it. Notification overrides, users with access to this file. You know, everything that is here that was at the top of your screen is still there. Talking about that functionality at the top right? So this page always had a ton of links and buttons on the very bottom of it. You just may not have noticed it because it was always sort of visually at the top of the page if you just scroll down a little bit. But those were always associated with the contact, right? So this is the information about a deal in your database and the perm note that goes with him. So again, top right, permanent upload, delete, print, schedule, links, appointments, call log. And again, you see those bright red to make them stand out and they correspond with those sections over here. This is the one that a lot of people tend to miss and they forget that a deals referrals and who he had sent you over the years were always associated with the actual contact. So that section you're always going to find in the contact information section in some of those extra links that are there. Okay. Now, back to this section, you can also see, and you may have noticed it, that this sticks at the top. And again, that's because you don't really have, you have a little bit of scroll, but you don't have the massive scroll that you used to. So the smaller menu that used to be on the bottom of your screen, your functionality is still there. It just may be over on the left, maybe at the top, your tasks, your messages, the search, but the pull down for a deal in any of his linked clients or any of his other years. They're still there. You're going to find that information right there. Okay, so let's go to events. So I'm going to click on the event box. It's taking me right there. Your functionality, same thing. You've got your add, instead of being in the top left corner, it's over on the right, and you can add any of the statuses that you might need to. You can see the actions, so the links that used to run across the top or the bottom, they're going to be there. Any of your print options, and then the update button is going to be there. One of the requests that we had is, of course, if you use something outside of a linear flow like tax prep, you might get way down here, right? And so some of those disappear. And one of the suggestions was to add an update to the bottom. It is still something we're thinking about. We are still kind of trying to run that line between keeping everything very clean and very uniform across all the pages. So we needed a little bit more time to kind of discern, all right, we're going to add it to these pages or we're going to add it to everything. So we have to sort of go back through and look at it again. But one of the things that I do all the time is, because we use a multi-level flow, is sometimes I do get to the bottom and I'm trying to add something. You're going to notice that the quick actions button sticks with that menu that sticks at the top, or your header. From here, I do not have to be in transactions to add a transaction or start a text message or your task note or any of that. Your quick actions allows you to, let's say from here, I decided, oh, I need to send not just him, but a couple of other people in the office a text, right? So office, I talk about how I use it, or spouse or secondary contact, and just shoot that off. I didn't have to come down to the communication logs that have been moved under here. Just so they're all grouped together. Those, if you forgot, used to be with the contact information. There were a couple of buttons that were over here. Of course, your portal and everything used to be there, but that information is all right in this section together. And you can see that if I click on anything, you have your ad, same thing with your email message. They're uniform in terms of how they operate. But I don't have to necessarily be in that section to do any of that. Quick actions is probably my favorite thing. I'm often here just because of how we particularly use your system or use our system. We don't always have to get directly into the file if I know I'm shooting off a text message and then making a note about it. I'm just adding an event straight from this page. It's great. It's quicker, it moves, it allows you to see much more and move faster through your file. Your account information hasn't changed. This actually also always used to be under the permanent note section. So this was that, if you've ever done training with me, how I explain it, it's that label on the green hanging file folder in a deals drawer, right? That this one is about tax prep 2023. And so that information is here. One of the things we found previously is that it was easy to forget, just again, that muscle memory, that the billable time and the hours used to be here in the account information. So the winter update, what we did is we actually added those two here. We are discussing the option to add the referrals there as well. So you don't necessarily have to always remember that that was in the contact information section. Okay. All right. And let's go down to the transactions. This is probably the page that was the most egregious in terms of, as we added functionality, you had a lot of things going on at the top, you had a lot of things going on at the bottom, and now it's cleaner. You can, of course, still org by that type if you'd like to. A lot of our bookkeepers do that, I know, because you have a lot of recurring payments and fees that are going in month to month. Your add transaction right over here, it's just going to pop out with that drawer menu. And then here you go. These are all of those things that you might think went away and got a little lost. They're just here in your Actions tab, right? ePay, credit card, and eCheck. Print, statement is probably the one that was most used. Open invoices, if you use that done, not done, right? So this one is considered an open fee. And then your hourly statement, if you have any billable time in there. All right, so with that, just kind of keep going down the line. EF data, this page, if you are Crosslink or Drake, this has changed slightly. It's really just been reorganized a little bit. And so you have your box. This stuff is going to pop out at you a little bit more. I'm going to change to one of his linked files and go to an older back here. So what we've done is some of these have also been highlighted. So it will, of course, stick out at your eye just a bit more. Again, if this was a reject, it would be a capital R. So they are sticking out a little bit more. And when there are, and there, or when there is EF data, of course, let's look at that contact summary. You're going to see the information as a card, again, an intuitive card. All right. This one has account documents just because I use this fake client all the time for e-sign, and you can see the difference. They have e-signed successfully. And so that is a little bit different than when we're looking at a deal and then looking at 23, right? He's got that right X. So again, bird's eye view, you can see everything about the file at once. We haven't really changed these portals too much, so your logs in terms of what you've done. The only big one is if you do have VoIP, the phone contacts, there is a new section over here. So what this allows you to do, just because it's slightly cleaner, if you're trying to make a call and you're coming back here, one of the things that our users found is obviously this is new. Eventually, you will get used to the physical layout of where your eye needs to go just to look for your phone calls, right? But one of the things they liked to do is be able to not necessarily have to get into that. They're just moving right over to the calls, and then you can choose who you're calling and how that's going to open up, again, your phone system. I'm just going to close that out real quick. Okay. All right. So coming down here, there's a couple more things to go over. The all years. This has changed. This used to be all business type, all years. Now we are looking at something potentially to open up with a newer update to have another selection here to show all the business types if you'd like to. But this used to be a little bit of a misnomer because 11 here, you do want to know that has to do with the retention so long as you were keeping those records inside of Adam if you didn't just start new with us, right? So for me, if I had both bookkeeping, let's say he had started bookkeeping in Adam at the same time he became a tax client, this would show 22. He has not been with us 22 years. He's really only been with us 11, but it's an 11 based on 11 tax prep. And if I go with this pull down, you can see the other business types because you can navigate to them. And so, of course, you see the one here with the 1 year of bookkeeping. And again, we'll work on a future update with something there, particularly for our bookkeepers who would prefer just to kind of see everything at once and go to an older back here at one time. This page is still a viable and useful page for me. I look at it all the time in terms of whether or not you're trying to look at the other information, who did the return, what those fees were, you know, was there a discount, any of the information that you might need to see based on the past years. Your favorite links haven't really changed too much. They're just now cards instead of the link, and they work exactly the same way. Your linked clients, the only big change, of course, is that you have your add feature over here. And so that side menu pops out, and let's just do Atom Software, right? And when you search, search, here we go, you're able to decide whether or not you're linking them. All right, let's go back to events because I did want to show you this real quick. I almost forgot. You may have been used to clicking on that blue banner or the gray banner, depending on your version. It's still there. It's just all events and status. If you were to org by status, that is still there too. Okay. So one quick note about the events. I know a lot of you used to work from your home screen. So let's go to the home screen. And let's say we're looking at Office for tax prep. and maybe you wanted to override these or move them, or, which is what we've gotten a few of the calls about, let's say you were trying to send a message. So one of the things we've done in the updates is when I think of actions in Atom, I think of things sort of outside of what I need the system to do. And so email, you might click on this and think, I'm sending an email through Atom, where this is actually, see this click here to send text and email message? This was that old email button, which I know a lot of you didn't really use that often. So that's why we tried to change the name a little bit. It's external email, meaning you're sending an email outside of Atom. And it'll merge with and work with in a BCC for all of those 4 people if you have emails for them. If your normal computer is Outlook, or if it's Gmail, or whatever you tend to use for your base email on that computer, it's going to populate that section. Okay. What you're probably looking for is add. And again, when I think of add, I think of things inside of the Atom ecosystem. So it's not just add an event here. It's event and predefined note and predefined notification and transaction. So again, the Atom ecosystem. So this is probably the one that a lot of you guys were thinking about with you wanted to fire off an email and maybe even a text message at the same time to this group, and boom, it goes out. So you want to think about it in terms of actions are normally, when you're looking at this view, sort of outside, add inside the ecosystem. Okay, let's go back to a deal, and we're going to show you one more section. So again, kind of giving you the overview. Love this quick actions, right? I'm going to go to schedule. So our calendar didn't change. I mean, it didn't change. This side menu did, of course. This is a little bit different, but this is nicer. It's not as much in your view as kind of taking up that main middle screen page. It's over here. And we'll give you a couple of tips and tricks. It's still able to move around, right? You can still move it over if you're having any issue seeing the last person. Here's a tip from Atom support. We like to have a canceled appointment fake user in our system, and it does multiple things for us, and I'll show you. So let's schedule this appointment for a deal, right? I'm going to put him at noon today, 60 minutes. He's going to be with me. He's requested for me. I'm going to say this is a phone appointment. He lives in a different state. We'll come back and we'll talk about these in a second. So I save this appointment. Maybe a deal calls me. And again, here's that double fold. If I open this up and I have a canceled appointment and you make it so the canceled is on the end, you can put a Z on him. You can give him a much higher difficulty rating for the experience that he has, and it'll move him to the end. I'm not covering someone that I need to make an appointment for if it's over here, right? I don't have to use this. But also, let's say he does call me and say, I can't make this. I have an emergency, doctor's appointment. I'm going to be able to move this over. And now I haven't lost any of my information that he had scheduled this, that he did cancel it, that, maybe I had written a bunch of notes about what we needed in here. And if someone deletes it, and you delete that appointment out of it, you lose some of that history. So this allows me to keep whatever I may have needed to keep about it, that I now have an open space I could schedule anyone for. And if I get into this file and go to his contact, and so here again, dynamic cards, right? This card appears when he has an appointment. I can see the appointment over here. If I look at the history eventually, canceled appointment, of course, this is a fake client, canceled appointment, canceled, canceled. I can kind of see a pattern forming. I can see that history in there. So this allows me a little bit more of a comprehensive, I haven't lost anything. I don't like to X and delete things. I'd rather just keep it and move it off to whatever I need it to be. Okay, so let's go back to that appointment and I'll talk about a few more things. So with the latest update in fall, you now are required difficulty, you were required the referral type. You don't, it looks like this is required because this is internally required. So there's a functionality to do that. That is an admin. It's in core configuration and it's in scheduler properties to require the appointment type. Now, we do know that a lot of you don't use those other two functions with the difficulty or the referral. And we just did not have enough time because our programmer had to build in, again, more of these. And to be able to get you your winter update before the tax season started, we did have to cut a few things off that we knew were going to take him a lot more time to build. It is going to be something that we'll work on in the summer, so that we can make it so you can decide whether or not you want those two things there or not. Let's go back to the appointments. So the other thing I want to talk about is for those of you that are using it, and we love it, right? To have an appointment type or even requiring your users to put one in there. And with COVID, this is where this came out of, right? We had a lot of different types of appointments flying around before we even let people back in person, right? We had parking lot appointments, phone appointments, online appointments, whatever kind of way you could get that work done, you were implementing new things. But sometimes that meant your language about what you wanted them to know about it was different. So if you're using them and you're wondering, my reminders, my confirmations are not working, that's because I'm going to show you two things. Messaging, email, text templates. This is the original appointment confirmation and appointment reminder system in Atom. And that's because this was pre-appointment types and we didn't want to make you have to use them. So if you didn't want to, you don't have to. You don't even have to turn that on so they can't see it. This is what would go out regardless, if there's no appointment type in there, if you have it set up for whatever your business types were. But if you decide to use the appointment types, and again, I always think of types, so category types to remember where they are, appointment types. When you have different appointment types, you may want to say different things to them based on you're going to bring this in, or please sit down, be in front of a computer so you can get into the portal. You know, you may want to log into the portal, whatever your language might be that differentiates these types of appointments. So here we go. Here's a parking lot appointment. It's going to be those envelopes. So this is where if you're using an appointment type, you must build the language for the confirmation if you want it to go out, and for, again, the reminder if you want it to go out. One of the nice things that we like about that is sometimes we have an appointment type that I don't want a reminder, like it's a placeholder, right? So you can even build one and not have, let's say it's canceled, right? And not have anything in there. But you want to be able to as well have that in the appointment type. If you ever worried about, I don't know what these are and I don't want to have to open each one to figure out what it is, if you would actually just click on that little icon, you might not know that it's a link and you can just figure out which one you might want. So let's do, you know, database for whatever reason. Not a great one, but that's okay. Okay. So we've got that in there, right? And you can tell immediately, I don't have any of that language set up. It's blue. Otherwise, you would see this red in there. What that allows me to do as well, let's go to a deal, right? I can see that this is a canceled appointment. Now, if I come back here and he's got this appointment type, I can do canceled appointment. Let's say you want that icon, right? I was trying to look for the big X, but I didn't want to go all the way down and do it and take that time. But you can do that even visually. You can see some of that stuff that's there. So that's one of the things. If you're using the appointment types, admin, category types, you need to build your appointment type language. Okay, so let's continue with a deal, right? So let's go over here, a deal, go to contact. There's a couple more things we wanted to talk about. The first one would be with the new update, I'm going to pull over my handy dandy Chrome, and I know it's Chrome because I have this different theme. So you may not have known this, but Atom is always built off your main page. So this is our demo, and I didn't change this. It's Friday because I want to show you where that is, but it's your main Adam_demo. So https://login.atomanager.com, Adam_your Adam code, and you don't really even need that login. It's going to default to your everyday. Because of this, if someone gets something wrong, webinfo.aspx is actually your portal, right? And here's your portal. If someone gets just the littlest thing wrong, maybe they typed it in wrong or something got corrupted with that link, the internet doesn't know where to take you. That landing page doesn't exist. So they're always going to end up back where you log in. For your phone staff, one of the things that I generally like to do is to have 2 different images. Now, again, you don't even really have to have this image. This is a year old now, but one of the things that's really nice about it, when your users log in, you can post important information. So if it's something about, hey, this form is now available, make sure to use this hotkey to get there in Drake or Crosslink or Pro Series, whatever you're using, you know for sure. Now, old school, right? You would just do an internal message, you would send it to everybody, you know you've informed people. You may not have known if they read it, though. Maybe they got in late and they had an appointment, so they're just running to their desk, they're logging in, and they're doing their appointment. You know if it's here, there's no way they didn't read it. They had to see it before they logged in. And of course, it allows you to do whatever you want. Maybe lunch is on us today, whatever it might be, Taco Tuesday, we always do. So this does 2 things, but again, if anything's wrong with that landing page, your clients are gonna end up here, and then you had to go through the whole thing. You reset my password, it's asking for a username, you never even told me what that was. Usually have to kind of do a lot of digging when they're already frustrated to try to figure out where they are. And mine is always, if you have 2 different images, do you see our logo at the top? Do you see a picture of XYZ on the right? And so if they don't see a picture of your building, you can just say, oh, I think you're at the wrong place, right? So again, if they're at that wrong place, they're always going to be one off on your regular one. They're like, no, it's some baby with Friday. You know they're at the user login. And this happens enough that you can say, okay, at the very bottom of the page on the left, there's a link for the client portal. Click that, and that's where they are. So they're there. All right, let me show you where those 2 things are before we start talking about the demo portal in detail. Admin, core configuration, security configuration. So this is the one that has the stuff about the 2-factor or how long that password may last. So again, think of login. This is where that image is. Now, the nice thing about being in the Atom ecosystem, which is different than sending, let's just do a Monday work meme, right? So you can just have something, copy the image, and paste it in, right? There it is. You could make it bigger if you wanted to. Double click into it, 500 width, there you go. Save. That's your new login. Now, this is different than sending an email, and that is because this is an image within your Atom ecosystem. They're in Atom to view it. You don't need a link. Now, if you're doing an email, you might want to contact us and talk about links, but it is also in your help menu. Let's get over here, just because it's so widely used. Images and logos in Atom, okay? The same thing holds true, category types, core configuration, client portal configuration. So that portal login image is here. And again, this is where I like to have at least 2 different so you can quickly know where someone is if they're calling you frustrated. All right, let's log in. This is the biggest thing with the newest update that came through. Your page in the client file looks a lot like their page in the portal, and that's on purpose, right? They should be able to see some of that balance depending on whether or not they've got documents, whether they have an e-sign, where it's message. It should be in their face about what is going on. Here's that appointment that was scheduled, right? And again, they could click On the balance, it's going to take them to this information. Mark did talk about this in the winter update, that now when they click on it, they're going to be able to see all years. So that is broken up a bit. Same thing with if the e-sign, because they may have signature pages in a different year, so they could see all the docs. And again, they always have those filter tops up here. They can use the pancake menu, right? Or they can always just click here. The trouble that we are finding, and some of your clients might find, is that if they didn't have any of these and it was a very clean 2022, there's no appointments, there's nothing to sign, there are no messages, this appears blank. So unless they know what is going on here, they're not going to be able to, if they're not super savvy and have seen these pancake icons or burger icons, to go over there. So what you should do is select your quick links. Now you can select them for all of them, or you can select the ones that you just want them to be doing immediately, the most used. So, and again, admin, core configuration, client portal configuration. Go down to the bottom of the page and you have your link configuration. This is where you turn links on and off. This is also where display in quick links, you can turn them on. So you can see send us your documents, view and sign my messages. Those all correspond with the quick links that are on. And you can turn them on for everything if you want to as well. You don't have to only do them for a few. Now, one of the things that is new, you may have an office that has been using Atom forever. Your clients are super well versed. They don't necessarily need those instructions there all the time. And so they're intuitive, right? Open if you want to see it, close it if not. One of the things that, again, we also ran out of time to be able to print that or get that winter update to you is that eventually we will have something else here where you can decide based on whichever one, if you're making custom instructions, whether it's going to be open or close when they get to that original page. So we ran out of time to be able to, we weren't able to get that for the winter for you, but it is another one that we're working on and things that people have asked us about. Okay. But otherwise, your portal, again, it hasn't really changed. It just looks very similar. If he has the linked client permission on the portal as well, he's got those over here too. So in terms of what he's looking at, you know, for someone who only gets in this once, twice a year, right? Having these cards, having this all up here, it's much more intuitive when they get there, so long as you did a little bit of the background work to kind of tell them what they're looking at. So the client portal hasn't changed too much, but you do want to make sure to turn on your display in quick links. So let's talk about a little housekeeping. And again, talking about the admin setup and things you should know. The first one also goes along with that. Now you can see portal, it's not going to matter, and half the time they're probably also going to be on their phone. It is nice, it's going to work with whatever size, whether it's on a tablet or probably on their phone most of the time, right? It's going to work in whatever they've got. They just kind of keep scrolling. Now, for you, a few of the things that you want to do is that with that, you don't need the mobile version of anything anymore. And so those mobile versions are now no longer working. Your suite of Atom URLs, my Atom URL links, right? There used to be 3 at all times. So the default one, and you can see the default, this is always one that's going to read. Are you on a mobile? Are you on a desktop? And then it used to size it accordingly because there used to be mobile versions with an M in front of that landing page of where it started. Because we don't need the mobile versions anymore, they are not there, with the exception of the self-check-in curbside, if you use that, okay? So with the information that you have here, if you have any of these links embedded, which normally if you're using texting, right, because the mobile was for those on the phone, if you're using any of your texting, chances are good they were probably in your predefined Twilio messages. So you should go through here and look. So and again, here's one for client portal, and I left it here so you could see it. See how that M web info, it really just needs to be web info. Now we had the M there, of course, because you're always texting it. So I'd look here first, right? Messaging, predefined Twilio messages, and take out your mobile links wherever you had them in here. See, here it is again. The other place that you probably want to take a look at would be category types, event status, office event. This is that big one. So this is the one where you are, let's hone this down just to tax prep. And if you're working in here, you really always want to use this filter. Otherwise, Adam kind of doesn't know what you're looking at if it's trying to show you the open events. If we're looking at tax prep, it would be any of these. Now, ours is a little different than yours might be, but any of these with the red envelopes, right? These are your predefined notifications, and you would have anything up here. Typically, if you find mobile links, they're probably going to be in the text message for something that you've created. And same thing way at the bottom of the page, if you had anything, let's see, and see again, here it is. This would have needed to be cleaned up. Web info on the text that was going out. Okay. So that's where you want to start to look to kind of get rid of those if you use texting extensively to tell your people about your portal. All right. So one more thing, I'm going to do the open a new tab, right? Open link a new tab. So the new feature that we did not have time to finish before we sent it out to you guys for fall of 23 is available in the winter. And that is you can now build event category types, which is what sort of put these in this bolded separators. So they can replace your separators, they can work in conjunction with your separators, but what you have to do if you're deciding to use it, you want to build your event status categories. And again, that was admin, category types, event status category. Once you have these built, when you're building, let's go back to my event. When you're building your events, you can, or just relabeling them, come through and do your label. All right, because there's a new category column here. Here's your support tip. I did build ours. We have an incredibly long workflow for our Atom clients. Just as long as this tax prep one that we have that of course came out of COVID because we have people at home and some in the office and different setup for what's going to happen with the type of appointment. But you'll notice that it's not just on your home screen. So if you come here and let's go into prepare now waiting, let's go to lovely husband tester, right? When you add that event, it's also in your pull down. So you can see all the reviews jerked together, all the prepares are together, all the tax prep. It's also in how you view, let's cancel this, how you view the event here. So what I have told people, I love them. We built them, of course. I've got them on ours, but it did take me an afternoon. And part of that was because it's not just building your categories. Once you get there, you might notice that, oh, I probably don't need prepare now or prepare next, not waiting, because I've got prepare as the category. Or if you are like us and you have more than one status open at a time, maybe your eye was used to seeing something else as the start. So maybe I need to shorten that category. Maybe I need to shorten the status as well as because of how it looks in the pull down, not just how it is in the file. So this is not difficult to do and it's a wonderful addition, but probably you prepare taxes, you manage a tax office. I would imagine you like things to be the way you like them. Not saying everybody is type A at all, but if you are at all a little bit, this might take you a little longer because you're going to build it. You're like, oh, this is great. I got them in there. Oh, now I want to change this label. Now I want to change, something else. Or the other thing I can tell you is that you don't actually have to put them on everything. You can just put them on the top one. And then, of course, ordinal-wise, they're still all going to fall underneath on your homepage where you might want to see them, right? So if you're at all particular about how you view things, you might want to make sure that you have a full afternoon to kind of sit down and do this. Otherwise, you're going to realize that it might be a little bit more time. It's not a ton of work, it's just probably time. Okay. So with that, let's get to a couple of things with the winter update. The first one as well, we covered with these, wonderful, add them as you'd like. The other one is Mark did talk about the tips, the new tip option on the portal. So we'll pull that portal back over in a second, but core configuration, company and tax information. Now, the reason why it's here is because this only applies if they're making payments online. So you have to have that credit card or e-check open. So this tip functionality to open it up is here. A little bit of background, we are doing some background work for programming to actually have a new type of card reader. So the card reader would be one that would allow contactless, that would prompt for tip if you want to. It's just because it's part of the reader. So we didn't do this just to say, hey, we think everybody needs to ask for a tip. It's just that it was originally part of something that just isn't pushed out to you just yet. It's not live. So this kind of went hand in hand. If we had it on the machines that we were using, it also had to be available inside of the portal. So what that looks like if you're doing it and you have it on, let's say he goes here and he goes to make that credit card payment, right? Here's this that's pulling up. No tip, it's just gonna go right back to the regular card payment option that they always have seen on the portal, okay? We turn this off, right, and save, come back here, let's go back, make another secure payment. It's not there. So that one is going to be in your company page. So Mark did mention there was a fix that we did on the company documents, which is also over here, but we found another issue with it. So one of them was that when you were trying to add, you couldn't pull up an upload type. There was a glitch in here. We fixed that, and then we found that if you had never used this before, so had any kind of file type in here, also now you can't pull up the upload types. If you're having an issue with it and you want to use this section, just give us a call and we'll have a fix before. He's of course building in the fix, but it will take a brand new full push to get it out to everybody. But he can put a patch on your system if it's something that you're looking to do. The company documents section is a little older, and again, it has that intuitive show or don't show, which I always anchor. But your company documents were a place for you to put things so that you don't lose it, right? That it's always in Atom. And it could be as easy as a phone tree, or it could be some of your tax documents or whatever you wanted, because of course it's in your admin and it's only associated with people that have administrative rights. The other fix that we had, it would have been in messaging and your batch messages. So this was new in the fall as well, because these were the main ones that everybody was typically using. Normally you'd say tax prep, send everybody an email or a text message, and anybody that was in the system from, maybe 1/1/2022, right? This is usually how most people used it. But if you're sitting there and saying, I used to send it to somebody else that was also in this status from only this time, those are still there. They're just advanced. So they're over here. Again, go to that top right button. They're still there. It's just that most people, basic, when you're using a batch message, this is typically what you're doing. Now, the glitch that we found, and it's because not a ton of people use the portal messages as much anymore, is because they have to log into the portal to view it. But of course, if you don't have that email option for them to come back, this is always going to be a great one to send them. So it's in their secure portal. They're seeing what they need and it's secure. This allowed you to browse your computer and upload any document. It didn't have to live anywhere special. With the fall update, this got glitched a bit. And so they couldn't open that document if you attached something inside of there. So with that fix this winter, it is now working. So you can add an attachment to a portal message. Again, they must log into the portal to see it. And it would be just like you could do it inside your internal messages, or it was working if you individually sent something to that client in one of the portals. Okay, so those were two of the main fixes of issues that we had in there. Again, we talked about a couple of the things that we added to the file with this menu. So the only next one that we're kind of taking a look at maybe again is referrals, just because it's harder for people to look at it. So view referrals, something like that. All right. That's really your little tip and trick. If you feel like you still need more help or you're having trouble, call, email, text, portal. We are here to help, but this is recorded just to kind of give you again that little layout tour, give you some of the, if you can't find where you are, just go to the top right corner. If you were used to seeing something, that same tip holds true that I was talking about earlier. Let's say you're trying to write, you know, an email message and you can't find what you want. You're like, oh my gosh. So if you come back, and I did that real quick. Hover, right click, open a new tab. What you're looking for is there. Same thing. Then maybe I need to look at the events at the same time when I need to be in transactions, right? So transactions, contact, events. And then when I'm done with them, I can just clean it up and come in and add that transaction that I need, right? And there it is. If I'm not in this section or I've scrolled too far down, use your quick actions. This is probably my favorite thing. Okay. All right. Contact us. We hope you, if you have trouble or questions or need any extra training, and we hope you have a wonderful tax season. I hope this helped. Have a great day.